rubbish mechanic, who's actually wearing some merchandise today. Yes, indeed. Unique too. How terribly exciting. We're just going to wait for this thing to actually work. I know, there's one person who's actually on there already. Okay, so I'm going to bring up it on here as well. We just pause it there so I can have the comments section ready. Oh, it's Mr. Andy G.
Andy.
Yes, good evening to you as well, sir. We are here. We are appropriately lubricated as well, and we even have something coming through on the Uber Eats as well. It's all terribly exciting tonight, and we were even slightly early, so it's all very exciting. Do you have gentlemen have any questions for Mr. Coleman or for me? Well, I know we haven't got too many people on here. They'll come along in a second.
They'll come along in a minute.
A little bit too early. So today, yes, last 24 hours I've filmed 2 episodes of Sensible Secondhand Classics. Done contingency reviews, and also we've also had no budget reviews. ULEZ non-compliant edition. Again. That's the way it works. It always was austerity edition, but not quite. Not this time. Maybe another time. Yes, Jonathan Bramble. Good evening to you as well.
Yes,
sir.
good evening, Jonathan.
Good evening. We might be interrupted at some point by a delivery that is coming.
Yes, we've got a curry on order, so I'll go and grab that in a moment.
Yes, it'll flash up on here when it does. Mr. Saxby.
Yes.
I'm glad you're here because my evening has been pretty uneventful.
Oh.
Well, it's not going to be uneventful anymore. That's for sure. It's not going to be uneventful anymore.
No, it's not.
No. Because we've got all kinds of sort of automotive hijinks and general japery, which is coming up, which obviously we enjoy. Mr. Coleman's channel is now going to be resplendent with alpha content once again.
It will be, yes.
Yes, plenty of that is coming up.
It's on its way.
Yeah, and you've got a couple of other videos already out, haven't you?
I have.
Yes.
No, it's not raining, Andy, where we are. In fact, I've just had to water the garden. It's bone dry.
It's hotter today than it was. It's hotter now than it was in the
quite
day.
warm here. Yeah.
It's interesting, really. Right. Okay. Do you viewers out there have any questions for us whilst we're here, particularly Mr. Coleman, because he's not always on the live streams?
Would you like your beer opening?
I'm all right for the
Sure.
so I'm gonna wait a little while until the curry arrives and I'll be suitably lubricated by some fine Indian food. I do like having money off my curry.
Yes.
It's been raining here all day on the outskirts of Ipswich and Colchester.
Wow. Yeah, we haven't had any rain here for about 2 weeks now, and it's very dry. Not that I'm complaining, but some rain would be nice. I've just had a brand new garden done, and I've got to keep watering the lawn and all the fresh flowers and stuff that I've got. So, yeah, it's been bone dry the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. When I was at the Retro Rides Weekender in Sussex, it was really hot. It was like 27 degrees at both days, and it was still quite warm at night. And I got sunburned at the end of my nose as well.
Yeah, I picked it up a bit at the weekend. I was up at Newby Hall at an Alpha show, and I got sore nose as well.
Yeah, that was a massive show, wasn't it? The one
1,037 cars through
over
the gate.
1,000 cars.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to make up for lost time, aren't they? All these different shows. It's certainly been a lot that's been missed. But Bromley Pageant would have been next weekend as well, and that just didn't quite meet the deadline for what was going on. I mean, had they known it was going to be sort of okay, they would have kept it, I think. But it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, it should be interesting next weekend, shouldn't it?
I headed to that on the channel update actually. That's yes, it concerns a particular type of car that Mr. Coleman owns, and only that particular type of car. That's all I'm going to say.
I do hope you all enjoy it.
Oh, that's a question for you, sir.
Mark II Granada, without saying. That'll do.
Yes, so Andy G asked, Mr. Coleman, what is your favourite Ford of all time? Mark II Granada. I think that's obvious. Right, we've got a good question here. Lot 76 Cars asks, what is the future for the ultra-low emission zone uncompliant cars. Well, the thing is, this is why we're doing some of the ULEZ non-compliant edition on no budget reviews and sensible second-hand reviews, because they're just going to fall through the bottom of the depreciation curve, because people just won't want them. Birmingham, which is reasonably close to here, a few days ago they had the clean air zone come in, which is very similar to the London ultra low emission zone, but it's not exactly the same. It's very confusing. No. So, for example, the 45 V6 I have, it's compliant with the London ultra low emission zone, but not the Birmingham one, which, considering it was made in Birmingham, is absolute madness. But yeah, anywhere like a city that's going to get one. So Bristol's going to get one. Bath already has one, but it's taxis only. There's plans for all sorts of ones. I think Havant is due one. Portsmouth is due one. Yeah. Sheffield is due one. Manchester's due one.
Everybody is.
So the value of these cars, which are, just for the sake of clarity, they are generally petrol cars before 2006, although there's lots of exceptions, including a 45 V6 in London, and forbidden fuel cars before September 2015. Although again there are some exceptions. So anything like that is going to fall foul. And even we found out this week that a truck that Mr. Coleman has at work. The truck's in really good working order, but because the depot in Birmingham is like right in the middle of Birmingham, they have to scrap the truck because it's not compliant with the clean air zone. So it's it's why I've going on about this. People keep saying, "Why do you keep going on about it? Why do you don't talk about them?" It's because they are becoming like a subject that you can't talk about. That's really kind of it.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Franks. I've just seen that pop up. Wow.
Yes,
hello,
Mr.
mate.
Yes, Mr. Franks is here as well. Mr. Saxby, I hear you're getting an MG5 for a review. That is absolutely correct. I'm getting one for a week for Wednesday. Do you know what colour? No, I don't know what colour actually. I'm not sure. The one that I filmed back in December was blue. I don't know what colour this one is. That's Harry Cox. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. Nice sunny weather here in Western. I presume that's Western-super-Mare. Weather here in the West Midlands is absolutely lovely. Miss Jojo, do you have any expectations of China in the coming year? Well, if you're talking about MG, and they are the only brand at the moment who are selling Chinese manufactured cars in the country, then they have said they're going to launch a thing called the.
Okay, it's just turned up.
Yes, Mr. Sir Depeche Mode is here as well. Good evening, Sir Depeche. They have said that they're going to launch a new small electric car MG. That might be a replacement for the MG3, but we don't know. They say they're going to launch the Cyberster in production form, but just in the concept like a sports car, again, an electric sports car. But again, we don't know when that's coming. There's supposed to be a facelifted MG5 coming as well, but again, we don't know. The ZSEV is supposed to be facelifted as well, but again, I don't know. It's a little bit vague, but those are the ones that I know of. Jonathan Bramble, I'm thinking of downsizing my petrol Focus for a Corsa 1.3 CDTI.
Oh, that's stay tuned.
Yes, but we can't talk about it anyway, can we? No, we can't talk about that. No, we can't talk about that. Right. Marie Cox, thoughts on the new Vauxhall Mocha? I don't think this is Mr. Coleman's. No, not really at all. I don't know. Unless I've actually driven one, I don't know. It's basically very similar to a lot of the other cars on, I think it's called the EMP platform that PSA have created. So it's got the same engines as, Citroens and DSs and Peugeots and things. I don't really have much else to say about it. I think it looks reasonably okay. It's not an ugly car or anything. But the same engineering is on so many other cars. I've driven a Corsa E, and that was all right. Didn't like the interior very much, but don't think I've had a lot else to say about that.
No.
Cameron Kane, given Euro 6 AdBlue cars will be the final throw of the forbidden fuel dice.
Possibly.
When do you think they'll be included in the emission zones? I have no idea whatsoever. No. Euro 7 is supposed to be coming in 2025. Or 2026. They haven't decided how tight that's going to be. But some people are saying even now that could be the end of all fossil fuel cars, pretty much.
Possibly, yeah.
For sale on the market. So I don't know. Mr. Frank says, "Sending motoring love. Hopefully, coffee will be served Norwich Mechanics Kitchen one day again soon.
More than
Yes.
welcome, mate. You know where I am.
Well, we actually do have some plans for the autumn. There's a dealership in this area that have offered some cars for review for the channel. I won't say anything more about that because that's still to be confirmed. But yes, Mr. Franks will probably be back in the area because
Hopefully too, mate. It'd be nice to see you.
I think I've asked him already to come and film those particular three reviews. So we'll be reunited. Just like Vera Lynn said, we'll meet again.
We'll meet again.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Saxby, with all this ultra emission zone nonsense, I hope newer cars won't be scrapped because that would be a disaster in my opinion. Well, honestly, actually, they probably will be. Particularly with the forbidden fuel engines, because they're just so valueless that there'll be one sort of failure, like cam belt, clutch, that kind of thing, away from being scrapped. Because if you scrap something like, I don't know, Citroen C3 that was on austerity edition, no budget reviews, that car was worth more in scrap than Mr. Cullen paid for it.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. So unfortunately, I think it is going to happen. It's a shame, but just due to the price of scrap and other things.
It's on the increase as well. I've had an email for that going up.
Yeah, so there you go. Probably more we'll end up with more stuff in the Austerity Edition, won't we, soon?
Hopefully, yeah.
We're actually on the lookout for another car for Austerity Edition. And Austerity Edition, we only take cars that are actually dangerous.
Yeah.
That really should, with no pass in MOT and shouldn't be in the hands of anyone else. That's
Other
the
than
reason.
me. I'll be
other than him. We only take cars that would be dangerous to give on to an owner who just is an average owner. That's the criteria that we use, and under £100 only. Mr. Cox, thoughts on the Nissan Cube and Kia Soul? Again, I don't think this is Mr. Colvin's area. I think he's just going to say kind of...
not very nice to look at.
No.
And the Kia, from what I can understand, has got no soul.
Yes.
Yes, very slow. I know they're very slow.
The new electric one, the new Soul EV, which has come out, apparently is very good. I don't know. I'm not driven one. Generally, I go with the Kia because I know they're actually very reliable. The Nissans, they just stick more and more Renault engineering in there as it goes on. And older Renault engineering was pretty solid. I mean, the Mark 1 Megane is
I don't think the Nissan Cube's actually available as a manual. It's always been an automatic.
Really?
3-speed on the column.
Yeah, I can't remember actually. I don't know. It's just it's not my sort of thing, but I can understand the point. Mr. Franks is jolly good. That's good.
Good.
Excellent. Mr. Travelly says, "Evening, gentlemen."
Good evening, Trav. You all right, mate?
That's a big question. Actually, this is for you, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Saxby says, my father has a 2013 Forbidden Fuel Focus 8. I've actually seen that car. Do you think it'd be possible to convert to electric one day? Sentimental value. That would be. That's going to be prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, that would be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it's just do like I do, because my Granada's very close to me. If you want to keep the car for sentimental value, which is what I do, regardless of its now high market value, just try and keep it original because it's not something you intend to use every day. Diesel and fossil fuels will be available for many, many years to come. As soon as people are under the impression that as soon as January the 1st, 2030 comes, that's it. You're never going to be able to buy fuel again, and it's just it's a load of crap. And I will just keep it as long as you can because diesel. Well, in my industry, with the trucking industry, there's going to be no advance on hybrids or anything electric for at least the next 50 years because it's impossible. So think of it like that. Yeah,
we'll still be able to buy fuel. And fuel's not going away.
It won't become expensive either. Yeah. It'll stay pretty much as it is.
It's because people are still buying fossil fuel cars, and they will do right up until the ban comes in. Some manufacturers will still offer them, I think. And you think about how many, 27 million cars are on the road in this country. It's one for almost every two people. They won't just disappear overnight.
No, they won't.
The attrition rate isn't that high, so yeah, you can still drive them. It's just the government will increase more. Will just put in more and more legislation to make it a little bit more difficult.
As simple as that.
Yeah, tax and the ultra low emission zones and things. Mr. G says probably scrap price will go down once the ultra emission zones come into force. I've no idea. I don't know. Don't know.
No, because that probably won't happen because the scrap price is governed by overseas. It's not done in the UK. It's done by big foreign markets such as India and China, because basically we sell to those. It's not processed in the UK. It all ends up going through chorus and Tata Steel, particularly if you weigh in EMR or do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say so. So the passion reception's terrible. I'll have to go. Leave the gents. I'll be watching it all back later. That's very kind of you, Soda Pesh. I'm glad that you enjoyed your new merchandise as well. Yes, I saw it before. Remember, yes, I saw it in 25. Mr. Harry Cox, what family car would you recommend for under 12,000 miles, under 12,000 pounds, under 50,000 miles, and take 4 people's worth of luggage?
Mondeo.
Yeah, Mondeo. Set Toledo as well. You can buy a really new one of those for about £7,000. About massive boot. Insignia, yeah.
Not like my mum's though.
Yeah, the V6 one possibly not. I think, yeah, the Insignia, the estate versions have been discontinued, but actually one of the depreciation on stickers is insane. It's crazy. Even the petrol ones, 1.5 petrol is insane. Right? But that's a good choice. There's several. There's several of them, but I think those are the ones I could sort of think of. Jonathan Bramble. This is interesting. Do you think the noise cars make now is all the same? Years ago, you could tell what was coming before you see it. I think duplications will not get the thrill of V6 and V8. And this is actually true because if you watch the car while drag races, you see that a lot of cars have soft limiters in them now, and so you can't hear them just as they stand. They don't make the same level of noise as before. Yeah. I think it's going to be really difficult because of all these EU regulations that are coming in. Yes. What did you say, Mr. Ross? Is it just me or the stream glitching? Possibly. I don't know. It's
possibly the Wi-Fi is not very good.
Yeah, the signal strength's not particularly good here. I'm afraid. We'll just have to keep going. That's a good question for you, Mr. Corbin.
What's that?
Travelly asks, the Mark III Cavalier SRI from 1991 or the 405 MI16, which has better handling?
405. I've owned one. White one, H-plate, and yeah, I miss it. It was a fantastic handling car. It made the Cavalier look like a sofa.
I drove a Saab 93 recently, but basically it's a Cavalier chassis, and that just didn't handle the best. It's all right. You could tell it's just a box and a front wheel drive car, really. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any more questions coming through on here? I think we're sort of caught up. Oh, here we go. Oh,
no.
Mr. Cox, you've probably seen the Citroen C3 review on No Budget Reviews, Austerity Edition. The Pluriel is probably even worse.
Yeah, it's just one of them with plastic roof.
Particularly, imagine if it bin fuel Pluriel, sir.
Yeah, I know.
With the semi-automatic gearbox.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty bad. Richard Howlett, good evening, sir. Good evening to you. Mr. Travelli, agreed. The Peugeot had better suspension. The chassis on that was a lot better than the Cavalier. Certainly was. The Cavalier is still a good car.
Yeah.
Just depends on what you want. I really want a facelift 2.5 CDX saloon in green. That'd be very nice.
GX 2000 for me.
Mr. Coleman, I think you know this one. Jonathan Bramble, I work in the waste sector and my council trialled a new electric bin wagon but lasted only 3 hours.
We've had one from Dennis and it didn't last very long. It was about 2.5 hours and you can't hardly put anything in. The gross weight is vastly reduced due to the weight of the batteries and I think you can only put about 6 ton or something in the back, where as a normal council route you'd be able to put 9.5, 10 ton in them, I believe. And yeah, it's not the way forward on the trucks, mate, because like I was saying to Joseph last night, you can make all these improvements, but you can't alter the size of the truck because obviously British roads and train weights, and the more weight that you put on, with batteries and after emissions treatment and all that kind of stuff, reduces the maximum gross weight that you can carry, and therefore the trucks aren't earning the revenue, and that's what it's all about in the trucking industry. It's all about that. So it's not going to be happening for the time being.
What's the gas alternative that's now being introduced?
Liquefied natural gas.
Yeah, LNG.
LNG. And Iveco have got a few decent engines out, and I think Volvo and Scania have as well. Merck are looking into it. So, a dodgy sound.
Yeah, it's just the way that it goes. There's not anything we can do about that, unfortunately. That probably is due to the speed of the wireless, and there's nothing we can do about it. Afraid. Here we go. Marie Cox says, my mother has had to do more work on her Suzuki Splash. We've already done the gearbox, and now the clips on the exhaust support have rusted.
Yeah.
And weren't supporting. It was a cheap but hard job.
Yeah, common. It's cars getting on a bit now, and particularly with stainless exhaust systems that use mild steel clips and fasteners and clamps and rubbers. It's a sign of the times. It's what you've got to do.
Yeah, that will be, probably at least 10 years old, one of those. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Can you lot still hear us? The problem is we can't really tell if you can still hear us or not, because unless you actually put any comments in here. Yeah,
I am actually having problems with my Wi-Fi at the minute. It's due to be, I need to find a new provider because it runs out in a couple of weeks, and I'm having problems even using my own phone and my own laptop as well, so do apologise for that.
Yes, that's why we changed our Wi-Fi as well in our house. Mr. Andy G, Mr. Coleman, what are your favourite cars to work on?
All of them. I like working on all of them. Some of my favourite cars, I like the older cars that I enjoy working on. Modern cars are more of a chore to work on because you don't get to use this, because you just plug it in and it says replace this, and it's like, oh, okay, that's boring. I'll just go and replace that part. Whereas with the older cars, even stuff from the late 90s back, well, you can't necessarily plug them in and tell you exactly what it needs. You get a chance to use your head and get to grips, get your hands on everything to think, oh yeah, well that's not right, and that's not right, we'll try this, we'll try that. If that doesn't work, it's going to be that. So that's what keeps the brain ticking, and working on modern cars does not interest me one bit, and I won't be doing it. Which is why I haven't invested in any more of the big scan tools or anything like that, because I don't need it and I don't want them. And it's kind of embarrassing really the way things are going, because people aren't mechanics anymore, they're just a fitter, and that's a big bugbear with me. So I hope that answers your question.
A fitter or a software engineer, really?
Pretty much, yeah.
Because because we're all going electric by 2030, or maybe even sooner with Euro 7.
It's going to be dying hard.
Or if Euro 7 comes in, it'll be even sooner. Just the traditional way of kind of sorting engines out and tuning them is just going. Although you're going to do classics only. We've got a few questions about types of cars. Richard Howlett says, what motoring magazines do you read?
I like to read Practical Classics, and I was a big fan of Evo, particularly when Harry Metcalf was in charge. And I also read a lot of trucking magazines as well, so it's all interesting. But Practical Classics is the one for me, because it's always very interesting. There's always something going on. It's probably one of the only magazines now, modern day, that's not full of adverts for wanting to sell your car or sell your house or buy this tool, buy that tool, and mail incontinence products as well. Don't get that, not in a car magazine.
Don't like that said, do we? Right, Cameron Cage, the sound's not too bad. Okay, well we'll just have to keep going. Marie Cox, Citroen C4 Picasso. No. Oh, there's a good question for you, Mr. Coleman. BX GTI or Renault 21 Turbo, circa 1990?
BX Turbo, just to be interesting. And the BX GTI.
Yeah.
And just to be interesting. And I've owned the Renaults and that I don't really like, but the Citroens are starting to grow on me, particularly with the older ones. So, yeah, that's what I'll go for, mate.
Yeah, I do actually have a BX coming up on the channel quite soon. We've been delayed twice as actually filming it, but yeah. This is a very good question. Ian Devonshire says, which of today's new cars will be considered interesting in 50 to 20 years' time?
None of them will be around in 50 to 20 years' time.
I think I know one would be the Giulia Quadrifoglio.
Giulia Quadrifoglio
Giulia
will be,
Quadrifoglio,
yeah, definitely. But with regards to like modern day family cars, a lot of them won't be around because people won't be able to afford the massive bill that it's going to be costing on electric and hybrid systems and batteries and all that kind of stuff. So you just throw it away and get something else.
Particularly with the sort of PCP culture
Yeah.
we've got, which it's not necessarily bad. I mean, if you've got a car that you work and you need one with a warranty, it can work out really well. But it does have other consequences as well. It just it's just one of these things really. Sound has got better. That's good. We like sound better. Mr. Marie Cox. No, not Mr. Marie Cox. Mr. Harry Cox. Thoughts on the Rover Streetwise?
It's a plastic Rover 25, isn't it?
It's just a 25 or an R3200. I don't really know what else to say. I'd like to try one. I'd probably like to try maybe one that's got a decent clutch in it because the clutches do go quite bad on the cable clutch. And problem is that for some reason Rover, it doesn't mean Andy Rover came up with Streetwise, but because it's a 25 or R3200, it was engineered first in the mid-90s and they engineered it just so that the pedals weren't in line, so the brake pedal and the accelerator pedal, brake pedal and the clutch pedal are not the same height, and as the clutches wear out, they're really bad, and they get a bit stiff. So it's either going to be a low mileage one, but they did make an auto 1.8 step speed as well, but
I don't think that was in this. Street.
I think they put one. You could buy there's a Forbidden Fuel one as well, but I mean there's I think one point the K series ones as well. I'd quite like to try one. It was the weirdest thing I ever saw was they made a 3-door Streetwise, which I always thought looked interesting. But apart from that, it's just I've driven R3200s and 25s on the channel anyway. I don't know what else to really.
Just the same, really, just a bit higher.
I mean, the concept was there, but the concept was basically what everybody now has. I mean, you look at, for example, of Fiesta Active, there's loads of other examples. So in that sort of thing, but they didn't really have any money to do anything other than just slap some cladding on it and raise the suspension slightly. That's all it really was. Heavily prefers the 21. Well,
fair enough.
That's fair enough. Matthew Jones says, wasn't there a Fiat Uno Turbo available back in the day?
Yes, there was.
Yeah, there was actually one, the Retro Rise Weekend, there were actually two. There was a pre and a post facelift one there. And if you look, I don't know if certainly the later ones come up already. I filmed 3 hours worth of videos, 6 videos, half an hour each. So forgive me if I can't remember every car that was in them.
Yeah.
But I think the certainly if it hasn't come up already, the pre-facelift one is coming up soon. But they're very rare because Uno's rusted dreadfully.
Yes, they certainly did.
Absolutely terribly. One of the worst cars for rust. And back then, if they had the fire engine in them, they were less reliable than the later fire engines, which got more reliable. So that's another thing that killed them off. Richard Hallett says he bought auto car for 35 years.
Wow,
it's a long time. Mr. Trabber Lee says the drag race. It's the late 80s. Rover 827 versus Carlton 3000 GSI, both manual.
Rover 827 would absolutely annihilate the Carlton.
Really?
Yeah.
And especially if you've got Tony Pond at the wheel.
Exactly.
It's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Mr. Harry Cox, the Fiat Cinquecento. Have you ever driven one of those, Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, I have. I've struggled getting in one. So I'm quite
bit small,
and, I've only teed a couple back in the day, and they were okay. Just a bit rusty. Usually needed tyres and front brakes.
I think if you look at the Miller Corner channel, you're probably going to find a bit more sort of expertise on that than you're going to find on either of our channels. We're not really experts on little Fiats like that. Although the Fiat Panda 100 HP is actually a very good car.
Yeah.
Right, sound is back to normal, completely clear. Yes, brilliant. Okay, we'll continue then. Richard Howlett drove a new Golf the other day. It was awful.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad car. I think the infotainment system is really bad. The same thing with an ID3. Everything's touch or like little sliders and things like that. And don't get me started on the idea of making the sort of headlamp panel like a touch sensitive display. I think it's a terrible idea.
Yes, I know.
It's dreadful.
It's not good.
Jojo, how can any government expect the average person to buy electric cars as we rely on the second-hand market? Now,
for you.
some of them are getting cheaper. I mean, if you want to buy, for example, MG's LSEV, that came out, first delivery was September 2019, for example. So that's about 18 months ago. Those are now sub 20 grand, for example. And, you know, a very good car to recommend. I mean, you know, I'm going to go and see my friend Richard, who got that very car next week, because we're doing a comparison with the MG5 and the ZSEV. And those will just fall in price. They just will, and just like anything else. So they will become affordable. It's just at the moment they're kind of not. The cheapest electric cars are probably old Renault Zoes.
I've seen one there this morning.
Yeah, old Renault Zoes. I don't know if they're any good really. My uncle's had two of those and he quite likes them, but I don't know much about them really. Yeah, I don't know. They're still a little bit too expensive for most people, I think. But that'll change, I'm sure. Just when they're just getting more and more on the market. Simon Webb. Oh, good evening, sir. It's Simon from Langley Prestige. He's here with the interesting selection of of cars that he always gives to us. Trab Ali, back in the day, would you rather have had a Renault 19 16 valve or a Mark II Astra GTE 16 valve?
Astra GTE, all day.
Digital dash, sir?
Digital dash,
yeah.
And yeah, preferably, I can never remember the name of the colour, but it was like a very, very dark purple. Very nice car with smoke backlights.
That's one of the later ones, I think. There was one of those Retro Rides Weekender. I can't remember what colour it was. It was like an H plate, so it's a late one. Did you dash as well in that? Mr. Cox, Volkswagen Fox Force. Don't know really. If not,
they're not actually a bad little car. They're not.
That's quite something for you, Mr. Con, because you don't talk about Volkswagens on your channel.
I don't talk about Volkswagens on my channel, but for something that's not really built by Volkswagen, they're actually pretty good. They don't go wrong very often. You don't see many of them about. I don't think they're a particularly good seller.
No, they weren't.
No, they weren't. But my niece has one, and I'll show it to you. We drove past it last night, didn't we? And it's fine. It's a bright yellow one, boggy basic with back bumpers, and she never has a problem with it. She's had it about 4 or 5 years now. I'll just service it for her every year and MOT it, and that's it, pretty much. No, I don't think I've ever failed it on an MOT, come to think of it.
Generally, the rule with Volkswagen Group cars is buy the cheapest sort of type you can. Buy a Seat or a Skoda, or like the one at the bottom if you're buying a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Because they tend to be more reliable. The higher you go up, like Golfs and stuff like that, and A3s and A4s and things like that, they tend to be very unreliable. The Toledo I had, to be honest, and the Skoda Rapid my uncle had, which is the same car, they're actually pretty reliable. It's just if you go more expensive, it just gets worse. But Fox was really cheap. I think they were imported from Brazil or something.
That's where they were built, Brazil.
Yeah. I think the biggest engine was like a 1.4 or something in that, and they weren't very powerful, but they served a purpose. And you know, they're not the worst, but they're not the best. All right, there's a couple of interesting things here. Mrs. Saxby says, I took a photograph of the gold 1978 S registration Citroen the other day. It's registered as a Picasso, which is silly. Would it be a GS or a GSA? That's a GS. GSA didn't come until 1980. Mr. Callum Baxter, hello sir. My Spider should be ready soon and you can finally review it. I am looking forward to covering an Alpha 916 Spider on Sensible Secondhand Classics. Been waiting a while for that. Callum, who's arranged a lot of cars for the channel, has offered me that, which is very nice. So we'll be seeing that soon.
Excellent.
I think it's got a red interior as well.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, exactly. Simon says, battery lease issues, The Zoes did have a lease battery. The MGs don't, actually. That's one advantage of them. Matthew Jones. I've seen a few MG F and TS. Now the sun is out. They look good fun and appear to be selling it well. One of the most popular episodes of No Budget Reviews is the MGTF that my friend Tom owns. He really loves it. His is virtually immaculate. It's like concourse condition, his one. But you can buy them for under £1,000 even now. But you've got to watch a few things on those. But they generally a bit cheaper than an MX-5, and they don't rust as badly either.
No, they don't.
Which is amazing, isn't it? Paulie Galtieri. That is
1 moment.
I will continue. That is the Uber Eats order that we ordered earlier on. It's just arrived, and Mr. Coleman will just get it. Paulie Galtieri said, "Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to you, sir. Mr. Harry Cox. My grandfather had 6 Foxes. 6?
Interesting vehicle to be delivering takeaways in.
What was he delivering it, sir?
An Audi A6 Estate.
Wow. It's posh people delivering Uber Eats around here. They deliver in Audi A6 Avant. That's pretty good. Paulie Galtieri said both agree that the 2 TDI 170 Forbidden Fuel drives better with the DSG. It's not great with a manual. It just sort of bangs into gear and things. Probably, yeah. Obviously, with DSG, you've got to make sure you service that.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure you service that properly. But of course, Mr. Coleman doesn't talk about box offers anyway.
No.
Don't talk about that. I had the Forbidden Fuel one, so I shouldn't be talking about it either. Trabalee, did you ever get to drive a GSI Astra Mark III? That's probably a question for Mr. Coleman.
Yes, I did. Blue one. My brother had one actually, and he was it was great. I think it was it an M Reg, and it was great. I think he might still have the wheels off of it. The rest of it fell apart, and it had a life, that car did, because we were all young, and what car didn't when we were a lot younger? I think we've still got the wheels off of that somewhere. I'll have to have a look for that.
Probably quite valuable, aren't they? Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah.
I think they were. I think he took the original wheels off it and put what's known as cav slabs on it.
Oh, another ones.
Cavalier flat front ones.
Another ones, yeah. The Astra Fs or Mark IIIs, it's the same thing. They're pretty rare now. There's not many around.
No, there isn't.
A lot of them were rusty, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them were rusty and stuff. Travel is just hit the like button. Yes, if you would hit the like button, everybody, that would be very much appreciated because it helps us out on the algorithm and things. Russell Cooper, this is an interesting one. What did your grandfather's drive? Well, that's an easy question from Mr. Coleman in one respect.
Check my channel out and see a Granada. It's that very car.
Yeah, it's been in the family since new.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said many times, my paternal grandfather had an absolute string of Maestros. He had at least 5. None of them were new. All of them were second hand. My favourite ones he had were a pale blue late Mayfair 1.6 manual. I think he had to have a power steering disconnected or something. It didn't work. I don't know if it's common on Maestros for power steering to fail, but he had it disconnected. The Maestros without power steering are really heavy, really heavy. I think he also had a Van den Pla. I drove a Van den Pla last year on the channel on No Budget Reviews, 85 with a DigiDash, Talking Dash Auto, and for some reason it had been specified with automatic transmission and no power steering, which is a really weird thing. And the dash worked. I had Nicolette McKenzie talking to me.
Chatterbox dash.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. They only lasted until I think it was January, February '86. They got rid of them. I should have some more Maestros coming up on the channel soon because I've booked in to drive a few of them. I have a viewer who has a lot of them and Montegos and other things. So we're going to go and see him quite soon. And that'll be a lot of fun. I know a lot of you love Maestros, and so do I. I think I'd personally prefer Montegos because of the way that they look. I think they look a little bit better. My other grandfather, he had a Morris Minor. He had the second one he had actually was in the family until 1983. It's a 58. He got new and he had it until 83. My mother actually then sold it to a colleague of my father's who kept it until 2005. And then another friend of my mother's then bought it and restored it and sold it. So it was sort of round for a long time. But then he got I think a Wolseley 1100 automatic. Then he moved on to a couple of Metros, and then he had an SD3. And the last car he had was a 1989 Fiesta Mark II gear automatic that did 1,000 miles. Unfortunately, he died the next year. So I never got to drive that, which is a bit of a shame. I finally got to drive 1.1 automatic Mark II Fiesta on the channel.
About 3 months ago.
Yeah, a few months ago. Yeah, it was great. It was very strange car and gearbox those, and very rare too. The Mark II Fiesta automatics now, they're quite rare. Yeah, I think that's a comprehensive answer. Just see here, Mr. Saxby. I think there's a new Astra coming soon, 308 based. Yeah, it will be.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting off the General Motors platform, aren't they? Mr. Cox, thoughts on the FN2 Civic? I think you're probably on the wrong channel for both of us, really, because I've never driven one of those. The person you probably need to speak to about that is Mr. Quirt from Planet Auto. He loves Civic Type Rs. Paulie Galtieri says, my grandfather got himself a brand new Morgan Plus 8 in 1977. He also had a host of other cars, the Jaguars and BMWs. That sounds pretty good. My father's first car was a 51 Mercedes.
Wow, that's another one.
There can't be many of those in Britain at the time at all.
Ponton or something.
Yeah, Ponton, even before that maybe. His last car was a 98 A class. I want to try an A class on the channel at some point. I'm not sure there.
I'm gonna try working on one.
I'm not sure there are any because the car's like a top and bottom sort of thing, and everything's shoved in the sandwich underneath. Apparently, they're a pain in the.
To work on.
So Gabby asked, do you think the 2 Honda Accord EXI was ahead of its time in released in '86? Well, it had things like anti-lock brakes and forward steering and things like that. Yeah. So, yeah, but it was one of those drives weekend. I think Ian Seabrook got very excited about it in his video. Dana, any thoughts on the Honda Prelude? Which Prelude? Because there were quite a
lot
few.
of them. Yeah,
lots of Preludes. I'll ask us.
I like the really early ones. I do.
You mean the 78? Yeah, there's very little of those left now. Audio stripping in and out. Yes, unfortunately it is, and there's not a lot we can do about it. It's just the internet speed.
It is what it is. Can't do anything about that.
I have driven a Prelude. I've only driven the Mark III, I think. I've driven a Mark III very briefly. That was quite nice. The Mark IV. Wow. One of my mother's friends used to run a Honda dealership in Southampton, and he took me on one of those, and it was really fast. It wasn't the 2.2 VTEC, it was 2.3 Auto.
Yeah.
It's still really quick. I remember the Star Trek dashboard in those as well, which had the fuel temperature gauges as lights, almost on the passenger side. I really want to drive like some Preludes because I think they're great, and they're just not many around because they all rusted away. Even the last generation, the Mark V. I think the only Prelude, there weren't many Preludes in Red Friday weekend. I thought there were really more. There were only 3, and 2 of those were like the 2000, which was the last year they made them. I kind of fancy like an older Honda like that because they've got really good engineering in them. The problem is everybody wants them, and they're so expensive now. Crazy expensive, but someone said to me the other day, I did an EG4 Civic on No Budget Reviews, and he said, where can I find one of those? And in the last 6 months since I actually filmed that review, I don't think you can buy an EG Civic anymore for under £1,000 in this country. I don't think you can anymore. It's a real shame. They're just transferably expensive. Decent engineering, and not everybody raised at the time. What's the next thing? Something about Prelude. He says, I'd love to get a 2.24 generation. Yeah, that's the one that my friend had. He had one of those. They're very hard to find. That's a VTEC one. Yeah, I know. I've just bought a second generation. It's a very old one. Then, with 20,000 miles from new.
Wow, nice. I like that.
Wow. Yeah, I think there were 2 litres, those ones. 2 litres, yeah, on that one. I always get confused between the second and third generation because they look really similar, but they're not.
I'll have Hitachi carburetors on it.
Yeah. Mr. Cox, thoughts on the Kia Venga. I've actually sourced one of those for a client. If you want a really dependable car to see for as long as possible, then that's actually a pretty good. It's actually a pretty good car. It's
1.6 ones are good.
1.6 chain cam engine, very good engine. There's loads of low mileage ones out there. They made them until, in fact, it was 2019. I made them until, and so a lot of them are still in warranty. It's a very spacious car. It's a sort of car that that no one wants to build anymore.
No.
There's no turbo petrol engines on it. The automatic, I think, is Kia's own transmission and all that. And the one I sourced was 2016. I think it had 20,000 miles on it. It was virtually perfect. Yeah, they're pretty good. It's not very interesting. I mean, you're not going to get any sort of kilos driving one of those around.
No, I don't think you are. I mean, the most of them I see going around, the people that are driving them are at least 70.
Yeah, that's like
Particularly with old people.
yeah. I mean, the fun I had, she wanted it for her parents who were in their 70s. So, but that's fine. You know, it's perfectly understandable to want something like that. Right, I think we've sort of come to the end of things.
Okay.
Oh right, it's it's Prelude again, isn't it? The third generation Prelude is a bit more advanced than the second one. Introduced four-wheel steering. Yes, I remember as well because my friend owned the garage. He was the dealer principal. He actually had a second generation one with a four-wheel steering. I remember seeing that as well. That was really weird. Never seen anything like that before. Second generation came with 1.8. You get the SR, it's 2 litre. Mr. Cox, thoughts on the Suzuki Swift Sport? I might have one of those coming up on the channel actually quite soon. If you mean the current one, I don't mean the hybrid one that's like, you know, the latest one, but the pre-hybrid one. I might be putting out on the channel quite soon. That's an interesting question for you, Mr. Coleman. At what point did you realise that we don't need cramped sports coupes anymore? For me, between the E28 M5 and the Cosworth.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I've got the E28.
How many pairs did you have, Mr. Coleman?
E28?
Yeah.
5.
You had 5 E28s.
5 E28s. So I had 2 525Es, 2 528s, and 1 535. Manual.
And you also had a couple of Cosworths, didn't you?
I've had 2 Cosworths, yeah.
They were Sapphires, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what I'd have. But there's no need to. I'd rather throw a big car around than have fun in a small car, if that makes sense, because usually the big cars are proper wheel drive, and for me it's more fun.
Oh, okay. Thoughts on the F33 series?
I can't even tell you which one that is anymore.
Assume that's the previous one, because the current the G20, and the one before that was the E90, E91, so I presume the previous one. I really don't have anything to say about those at all. I don't know anything about them.
No, I don't. I wouldn't want to.
Nothing.
If I'm honest.
Dennis, Betty, I assume that's referring to the E28s, isn't it?
Yeah, I do miss them, and particularly my particularly the red 528 I showed you. That was gorgeous. That was. In fact, question for Andy G. I'm gonna go and get you something just because we did out of how many cars I've owned. I'll go and get you something.
Yeah, Mr. Coleman actually made a list of the cars that he's owned recently. He's just going to get it. Whilst I do that, I'll just answer another question from Mr. Cox. Estates or saloons? I don't know. I've owned a couple of saloons. I haven't made many estates. I quite like estates though. So we have the sheet here.
2 sheets.
2 sheets because there's an awful lot of them. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of cars.
That's sheet 1. And this is sheet 2.
I
think it's...
There might be more than that as well.
There's more than that. I think it's about 250.
And that doesn't count cars you were sort of buying to sell.
No.
It doesn't count cars like, you know, actually the C3 does count.
C3 does count 'cause it was in my name.
Doesn't count, bangers don't count.
No, bangers don't count, flip cars don't count, sales cars don't count. That's what's been in my name that I've taxed, insured, MOT'd if needed, and had some fun with, and then moved it on.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? Richard Howlett says, intend to keep 2.4 record forever. Had very good comments of workmates, but they're pretty reliable, aren't they?
Yeah,
it's a 2010, about 2010 is something like that. But a very decent engine. That's not turbocharged or anything, is it? It's a 2.4 4-cylinder, I think. Yeah. Mr. G, yes, it's a lot of cars. Trapoli, what was the I'm presuming it was the E28 M5's competition when released? I don't really know. I'm not sure. Because the
RS500 Cosworth.
RS500. The 190 Cosworth was a bit
190,
smaller.
yeah, it was
Bit
it was a
smaller.
bit smaller. It kind of rivaled it, but the M5 would have absolutely run rings around it.
Yeah. Um, Cameron Kane says, what are the top three cars? I presume it's the top three cars that you've owned.
Top three cars that I've owned.
That's difficult. Well, one I know because you've still got it.
Because I've still got it, which
Yeah.
is the Granada. One that I do regret selling is my E28 528i, but a good friend of mine still has that, and he did let it go to rack and ruin a little bit, but he is actually having it fully restored as we speak, so that'll be nice to see that again. And the other one would be a toss-up between my Senator A, that's one car I do miss, and my 760 GLE Estate Volvo. And that was a nice project. That was it cost me a lot of money, but the enjoyment I got out of that car, it was stunning, and I did get a lot of money for it because it had the PRV DeLorean engine in it, 2.8 V6, and that was a very, very nice car. That was. You'd have been having kittens. Absolute
I've
kittens.
seen video and pictures of that particular car.
Yeah,
I think it did it have a base leather interior, sir?
it did.
It's dark blue too.
Yes.
It's a GLE.
Yes.
Automatic. Of course.
Yeah. It's also.
I do like a nice beige leather interior.
I don't.
Mr. Coleman doesn't, but I do. In fact, we've had lots of beige leather interiors recently. We've had lots of those, and there's two more parts of Retro Idea to come where I talk about beige leather interiors an awful lot, and 2 episodes of Sensible Second-Hand Classics where I talk about beige leather interiors as well.
I like red leather interiors.
Oh well, there's that Alpha that's coming up soon's got a red leather interior, so that's very nice. This is an interesting question. Ian Devonshire asks, predictions on when the SUV dominance will end, or will they be dominant style forever? I've absolutely no idea.
I don't know.
No way of
For
telling.
me, it can end tomorrow because I can't stand the sides of them. And yeah, it's sign of the times, but to be fair, I don't see the point in them. What's the point?
It's more of the sort of look. It's the ease of getting in and out of it. There's actually the Tivoli is very spacious. I quite like that. It feels a lot more spacious than the Toledo did. That's one thing. It does feel a lot better. It does feel very spacious.
To me, a sports utility vehicle should be four-wheel drive, have a relatively large engine in it, and a picture of a surfboard on the side of it.
Yeah, it's not. That's definitely not what I've got. Mr. Sackler says, I think estates are very cool, becoming unfashionable, which frustrates me a bit. I like estate cars. In fact, the MG5 EV I'm getting next week is an estate car. It's the only fully electric estate car you could buy. And I think there is a lot of reason for it. So many people who are not normally fans of electric cars have said to me, oh, I'd have one of those. Oh, yes, I'd have one of those. There are people who own like older classics as well.
Yeah.
It's really quite surprising because it's a really simple car for an electric car. Like, it's not like an ID3 where you need a degree in computer engineering to operate the heated seats. It's really simple and for an electric car, and it's got proper dials in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're into something with that, but no one else has followed them so far. Mr. Cox says, my father's recently been given my grandmother's Rover 25 with 34,000 miles on the clock. That's a bit like the one I drove that Jude had, actually, a sort of low mileage one. The low mileage ones tend to be quite good because the gearboxes tend to be in better condition. Not always, but sometimes they can be knackered. But you just got to make sure that head gasket's okay. You really do have to if it's a K series. Matthew Jones says, what's interesting? My first memory of the estate was my father's Morris Ital, not a car that Mr. Coleman particularly likes, I don't think.
Yeah, they're okay.
Cream or yellow. I know. Oh, it's beigey colour. There were some really, really nice Itals at the British Leyland Autumn Rally in Milton Keynes last year. There were some beautiful Itals. Better condition than would have come out the factory.
Prosthetic limb beige colours.
Yeah. One was beige. One was like a sort of turquoisey colour. Turquoise one was beautiful. I really like that. Paul Ligatti, would you own a Rover SD3 Vanden Plas?
Yes, I would. In white.
Yes, I would have a Vanden Plas, one of those two. I love Vanden Plas. Adam Henderson. And exposure to an Isuzu V-Cross? No, I've never. I think I've seen one. I've never Done anything
No,
with them?
I don't know. I
It's
didn't
a
know what they are.
Trooper underneath, isn't it? The
I
across.
couldn't tell you.
I think so. Oh, Simon. Simon's always given us the inside line because he actually does trade cars. Simon says it's stated to prove to be very popular in the used market. It's a great value to be had. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Mrs. Saxby, yeah, the MG5 is one of the only electric cars I'd have. Do you think they'd be electrified Focus, or will it be a whole new platform like the ID3? Well, funny you should say that, because there was a Ford Focus Electric on sale in the early 2010s. It was very unsuccessful. I think it was far too expensive and it wasn't very good.
I've seen a very unsuccessful electric car go through Stratford-upon-Avon this morning.
Well, that's
It was a Vauxhall Ampera.
Oh yes, it was the first plug-in hybrid. Or the one you needed to find was a Chevrolet Volt. That was a Chevrolet version. It was even less successful. But yeah, they're pretty rare. They're like collector's items though. Actually, now they're fetching proper money. It's because they're really there. So well, yeah, sold one of those. Yes, Ampera E. No, not the Ampera E, because that's the Opel version of the Chevrolet Bolt. This is not Ampera. Yes. The Ford are going to use that platform of the ID3 for their electric cars. They've made a deal with Volkswagen to use that platform. So, yeah, will it be an all-new platform ID3? Well, you answered your own question, pretty much.
Yeah.
Exactly. It will be that platform. Mr. BMW Zeta, whether the new one, I don't really have anything to say about that, really.
Have they brought a new one out?
An electric thing, but it's a bit like the Citroen ME thing. I don't know. Don't know what to say. Simon was an interesting drive, to be fair, but presumably the Ampera.
Yeah, probably would be. I'd have a go in one.
Yeah. You look a bit ridiculous driving around in the Zeta, wouldn't you?
No, an Ampera I'd have a go in.
Oh, yeah. First ever plug-in hybrid sold in this country. Mr. Coleman, it's probably you.
Which one's that?
Was the Alpha Sedan or GTI Mark 1 the first hot hatch?
I'd say the GTI would be the first successful hot hash, because it just was. It had the market backup and everybody bought it. But I would personally have the Alpha Sud. Just one, to be different, and two, we don't talk about Volkswagens on my channel, do we?
Don't talk about them on the Road
Not on
Mechanic
my
channel.
channel,
Don't
no.
talk about that.
Not welcome.
Yeah, the first hot hatch might even be the Simca 1100 Ti. Actually, you could argue it's Simca 1100 Ti. Another one was the Lotus Sunbeam. That was quite early. There were loads. Alpha Ti, you could say.
After that, but I would agree with. I would say that the first successful hot hatch that was built specifically to be fast and small was the Golf Mark 1.
Yeah, I'd say that. You could argue the Simca was probably the first one, but it wasn't very successful.
And the Alpha Sub was just bonkers anyway. They were just naturally quick, but it wasn't built as a, fast car. And the dead giveaway on that is GTI. And
exactly. There's a beautiful Alpha Sud actually at Retro Weekend, which is coming up, I think, in part 6. A really late one. I think they call it Series 3.
A good friend of mine, Steve Connolly's got a Series 1 Alpha Sud with an Alpha 33 engine in it, 1.7. It's got 250 brake horsepower.
Oh, Mr. Coleman. Right, Mr. Saxby, I think you need to find a Renault Fluence. Well, that's just a Nissan Leaf with like a Renault saloon body on it. It's not. I don't know if it's that interesting. They're rare, but I don't know if they're that interesting.
There's one in Stratford-upon-Avon.
A Fluence. Right, it's interesting. Mr. Cox, Vauxhall Mariva thoughts. I've actually got a Mariva I've been offered sensible second-hand reviews, so we'll pop that one up. Apart from the second one's just a Corsa D underneath. That's all. That's all it is. The first one's just a Corsa C. There's not much else to say really. The Cameron Kane Road 5S. I think that's the electric one. It looks nice. I don't know. Hopefully that's going to come out. I don't know. Do you remember? Simon says, do you remember the iMe Citroen C0 Peugeot Iron collaboration? Yes, I do. I saw a 2017 Citroen C0 in Winchester last year. They're very rare, and they made them as late as 2018. They're still selling them then. Terrible range. I don't think there was any rapid charging really at all. It was a bit useless really, unfortunately. I don't know why that person. So last thing, Trabally, the sound of the Alpha Sud.
Yeah, they do sound
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Sound great. The harder you push the pedal, the better it sounds.
Yes.
Don't change gear until it's about to blow up. Then do it all over again.
We do like some of that, don't we? Right, so we've been going for the takeaway's getting cold, so we're going to have to go and eat that. And my beer is also still here, unopened today. So thank you everybody for watching this joint live stream with Mr. Cole, Rubbish Mechanic. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel, because if you get to 5,000 subscribers,
I'll be able to do this with you.
He can do live streams on the phone on his own.
Yes.
Which I think he's going to enjoy. But don't forget to like the video, leave your comments below if you're watching it on catch up. Yes, lots more to come next week. No budget reviews, sensible second-hand classics, contingency reviews is coming back soon.
Yes.
Then we've got
I'm happy because I've got one of my broken Alphas back. I'm going to see the other broken one tomorrow up in Yorkshire.
Yes, indeed. So more sort of tinkering and other exciting things. And then there's that MG5 EV crazy road trip with Planet Auto and everything like that. And a specific event next weekend involving one of Mr. Coleman's cars.
Thank you very much.